everybody, and welcome to episode 31 of Down to Watch. I am your host, Kahmeela,
Dan?
and we are here to talk about movies and junk. Dan's having some problems, looks like, with his mic stand, but just going freestyle with it. So today,
It's too little.
at some point we'll get to a point where we can upgrade the studio. But today, we're going to talk about M. Night Shyamalan's film, The Visit, which I never thought I would ever say those words. We're going to talk about M. Night Shyamalan film. He has disappointed me very much in the past. But that's all behind us now.
Shall we give him a breakdown of the plot line of The Visit?
Yeah, we are going to get there. We're almost there. Just let me pull up my notes here, and we can get on this thing proper like. So The Visit is a 2015 film, and also, please be aware there will be spoilers, and this movie is heavily twisted. So,
And it's relatively new.
yes.
We don't normally do a newish.
No, a movie that was released in 2015. This is new ground for us.
But I feel like it wasn't given a lot of attention.
I don't know, because I wasn't okay. So The Visit came out in 2015. The plot summary is two siblings become incredibly frightened by their grandparents' disturbing behavior while visiting them on vacation. This film was directed and written by M. Night Shyamalan. Our personal histories with the movie, I recall seeing it, the trailers and everything for it. Obviously, it was just last year, but I was hesitant to see it because it was M. Night Shyamalan film. Like, the premise sounded cool. The trailer looked kind of creepy, but I was like, I don't know. I don't know about this. What about you?
Well, you're my movie guide in the world, so since you didn't like him, I didn't like him. Because I really hadn't seen anything he'd ever done before. I just know it causes you ire.
You've seen Sixth Sense?
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, okay. The Happening?
Nope.
The Village?
Nope.
Lady in the Water?
Nope.
Okay, so you've seen the good one.
I've seen
Which
two
is
good ones. I liked The Visit. I thought The Visit was really
Oh, yeah, I'm saying, but before The Visit.
good. Right.
Yes, I think, for me anyway, the Sixth Sense was the last really good one. Everything else was just, and I stopped seeing them after a while. But yeah,
I do know that enough about, I pay attention enough to late night comedians to know that M. Night Shyamalan is a horror genre
yes,
person, and
he likes his plot twists.
plot twists. So I was on the lookout for a plot twist all along, but the one that I got was not the one that I thought.
Yes, all right, so let's get into it. Our character and actor breakdowns. We have Olivia de Jong, who plays Becca. And Becca is a 15-year-old who is aspiring filmmaker, and this whole movie we can thank her for, in the realm of that world.
Oh, yeah.
Because she is documenting all of this that's happening. She's making a documentary about her mom and her life growing up and stuff.
Yeah, the architecture of the whole film is that she is making a documentary of meeting her grandparents.
Right.
And so that's how the thing gets set up. Is she's interviewing her mom, and there's lots of little cool things we'll get into later. We'll revisit that, as Becca would say. We'll go back to that.
Okay, and Becca has a little brother named Tyler, who is played by Ed Oxenbould. And Tyler is 13 and thinks he's black. It's almost to the point of being offensive. It's to where, there's a point where the grandmother asks why his pants are so low, and he's like, because I'm a rapper. But I mean, this character, he starts off kind of
Probably a stereotype.
Yeah.
That a lot of
yeah,
kids like him. I
Yeah.
thought he did a great job. Whoever
Well,
the actor is did a great job nailing this segment of America.
right. And I think he started off as a caricature, and
But
he
they explain why he is that way.
yeah, but and he just kind of he got much better, more tolerable of a character, and he was actually funny, and I think the kid who played him did a really great job of.
Oh yeah, great. I really believed the chemistry between the brother and the sister was very real. Like
Yeah.
the dialogue between them, even the casting of those two actors,
Right.
they looked alike. I mean, I 100% bought that they were brother and sister throughout. That was the best thing I think about this movie was just how believable it was that they're brother and sister.
Yeah, and it was interesting to me because I guess they're 2 years apart, and they had a really good relationship, and it was very realistic because they call each other like out of name and do stuff to piss each other off, but they're there for each other. What that boils down to, and
Right.
it was a great relationship. We have Deanna Dunnigan plays Nana, who I don't recall seeing her in anything prior to this, but she was like equally sweet and equally creepy.
Yeah, I wonder about the. We'll get to the grandpa too, and
Okay,
I'll make
and the
my
grandpa was
comment.
played by Peter McRobbie. He played Pop Pop, and
Great eyes.
I've seen him in things here and there. Just mostly like he's one of those, oh, it's that guy kind of
Yeah.
actors.
Yeah, he had either the most and both grandma and grandpa, like their eye acting had a lot to do with the way that they carried their part off because they went from this like sweet and likable, but still kind of weird,
Yeah,
and then like to just monsterish, like crazy, like
yeah,
just and it was all just in the flip of an eye. Like I could imagine how great it must have been to play those two
right.
characters. Like how much
They must
fun.
have had a lot of fun playing those because I'm sure like they've never really had a chance to do well. Probably the woman, probably Deanna, never had a chance to really like kind of get a role like that. I'm
Right.
sure I've seen the grandpa in things as evil or something, but not to this level.
Right. But at the same time, I wonder if they're like, okay, you two, like, they exhibited some real like behavior that requires people to have 24-hour surveillance, mental disorders. Like mental disorder was a big part of the whole thing throughout. Like,
Right, and also there was a lot of just like blaming a lot of things on, oh, they're old.
yeah, but mental health like affected every single character. Like you could
Yeah,
tell that mom and the kids have been through therapy because she had some great like reinforcement parenting, kind of like what kind of problem is this on a 1 to 5?
right,
Like all kinds of really great communication. She didn't come up with on her own,
right.
being a 19-year-old runaway.
Yeah,
Right. So
truth.
and the kids had their own. Disclosed therapy breakthroughs, and a
Mhm.
large part of the whole plot was that
Right,
the little boy had to face his two fears, and the little girl had to face her fears
right.
in order to like resolve the ultimate conflict, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, like it was difficult to once you know what the plot twist is, you're like, how bad is this mother? But they
Right.
do a lot of things before that reveal to
Yeah.
establish that she is a good mom and she has great parenting
She just has
skills.
her
And
own demons.
like the
That,
whole reason the kids are going on the trip and the kids' rationale is to give mom a break because she's over momming it. She
right,
needs to have her own little slice of life and a little vacation. She deserves it, kind of thing. So
right.
they establish that she's a good mom very well too.
So speaking of mom, is played by Catherine Hahn, who we see her a lot in comedies, and I think this is her first horror film. And I always liked that actress. She's hysterical, and I just enjoy watching her on film. And it was nice to see her pop up on screen. So
What else has she been in?
I can't even. I don't have the IMDb open. It's like a lot of probably like
She
those.
could have been a sister in My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
No, it was like I know she's been in a couple like Judd Apatow films. Like
Really?
yeah, yeah, and it's always
Like
like a
Grandma's Boy?
and it's always like a maybe it's always like a bit part, like the funny sister, or
Huh.
the snarky best friend or something like that.
Wow, interesting. Well,
Let's
in
just
that case, she did a great job playing I guess, a serious dramatic role because one of my favorite things that she did as an actress was when the two kids get on the train to go see Grandma and Grandpa. And she drops
oh
them off at the train, and she's like waving it through the window, clowning it up,
yeah,
moving the arms. And the train starts moving, so she acts like she's gonna run along with the train. And then, like towards the very end, as she's running out of like runway,
yeah, she starts to
she
break
really
down a
like
little bit.
she looks like real serious and like, oh my god. It was just like also great acting. She didn't
Yeah.
say a word.
So it looks like from her filmography
A
here.
great shot as well. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
she's been on a lot of episodes of Parks and Recreation.
Huh.
She's been on The Kroll Show, several episodes of that. She's been a voice on Bob's Burgers. She was in Bad Words with
Just Jason Bateman.
yes, we're the Millers. That movie.
Okay, what's her name again?
Catherine Hahn.
Catherine Hahn, we got our eye out for you. Expect greater things. Not that you haven't done great things, but
No, yeah, she was.
more. You
She's
did a
good.
great job. Very convincing mom.
Our idiot brother. Like she's step brothers. So she's been doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
And good on her for getting this, doing
Now,
something a little outside the box.
I haven't seen a lot of M. Night Shyamalan movies, which we've
Mhm.
already established, but I'm going to ask you a question as a connoisseur of his works. I know.
A victim.
You should have seen the look she just gave me. that was I was like, you know better. You know better to say something stupid like that. In any event, seems like he kind of came from a divorced family,
I don't
and
know.
that maybe theme revisits itself in his other movies because this was also a great movie if you come from a blended family or if you've got a single mom who's finally starting to think about her own life. Or just like, I don't know, like both you and I, for example, not to put all our ish out there, but I've had those awkward experiences where we're visiting relatives that we've never met before.
Yeah.
But we're grown-ish, you
Right.
know, like they're 9 and 13, or if they were
13
13,
and
15,
15.
but nonetheless, like, it's not uncommon for people to have this experience now where I think Emlan or whoever wrote, he wrote this, so Emlan did a good job kind of capturing this broken nuclear family phenomenon
Right.
and incorporating that into a horror film.
No, yeah, it's
And like
absolutely
this
true.
is the whole premise is like you're going to go see family you've never met before.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's like when they get to the train station, there's only two old people there.
Right.
They're the only people there. Nobody
Right.
else is there to meet anybody else because nobody else
Nobody's
is getting
going to
off
this
at
town.
Masonville, right? It's only them because like he's a farmer, like that. They established that it's kind of a remote, and you're not going to have cell phone stuff, so they're going into Pennsyltucky is what we call it here locally.
Yes.
But that kind of country-ish, hilly, mountainous area that doesn't have a cell tower.
He's relatively like
a
remote.
distributable antenna system.
Where
or
like the
anything.
nearest neighbor is probably like 50 yards away or something like that.
Yards?
Or yards?
Miles.
I don't know, miles.
like
That's
50
what
feet.
Yeah, it's 50 miles away. Like you have to drive to your nearest neighbor.
Let's go.
So, but
Let's
yeah,
use
okay.
the metric system.
So
for the rest of this podcast.
the basis of this story is that as Dan was saying, is that they haven't met their grandparents before, and this is because mom, when she was very young, 18, 19 or something, she fell in love with some older man who she worked with or
A
worked
substitute
for.
teacher.
Substitute
He was a
teacher.
substitute English teacher.
Ugh, gross. So,
Right.
so she falls in love with him and runs away with him against their wishes. Like they do not want this to happen.
Right.
And
As no parents would.
exactly. And so she decides, and after she marries him, the kids are born. He leaves her for some Starbucks barista or something.
Right. Right.
And so she's trying to put her life back together, but she's still
Dad left when he was like 7 or 9,
something
9
like that.
or something. Like,
Yeah.
No, he was in Pee Wee playing football, so maybe he was like 10. I don't know.
I think he said that he was 9 when he was telling the story.
Yeah. Okay.
8 or 9. So Dad's been gone for at least like 4 years, I would say.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
5. Yeah.
Okay. And so and the little girl is making her documentary, and they've never met their grandparents. And just because mom is estranged, mom is estranged from them, and so the grandparents have looked the mom up on the internet, contacted her, and asked if they can meet their grandkids. They want them to come visit for a week, and then mom looks them up on the internet and realizes they're now counseling at some psychiatric hospital, and she finds a good chuckle in that.
Right.
So after the kids are begging to do it, she agrees to go ahead and let them do it. And she puts them on a train, and off they go.
Well, the kids insisted. Like, that's how the whole thing started.
Right. She said no. The kids were like, "Bah, no, we want to do this."
Right, and this is Becca, the 15-year-old, like, filming her, doing the confession. Like,
Right.
The kids want her to go.
Right. And also, the kids are also thinking this is a good chance, like you said, to give mom a break, and she's going off on a cruise with her boyfriend.
Right, and also, but that's all the pretext. That's what these kids, like, have, Becca hides behind the camera, but at the same time exposes herself through the questions she asks. But when the camera's turned on her, it's a whole other story. And the little boy, he obviously is hiding behind the caricature of what he thinks is cool culture right now, which is the rapper, right?
Good
but
call.
both these kids are broken, and they are looking for some kind of roots.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're so, that's why they're kind of stoked to go see where mom came from and establish some kind of, because otherwise they're abandoned, by one parent, and I can relate to like
Right.
these kids and their journey, which is why again I give props to M Night. M Night.
M Night.
What do
Yes.
you want to call
We'll
him?
just call him M Night.
Emmy.
Emmy.
We'll call him
M Night Shyamalama Ding Dong.
Yeah.
M Night Shabbat Shalom.
I'm sorry. I'm just not familiar with the
M Night was good.
Shyamalan. Mr. Shyamalan. I'm gonna work his name over this whole podcast until it's done, until I figure it all out. M Night, I thought did a good job writing these characters, and again, giving him props for putting together this kind of like. There's not a lot of narratives in the world of Hollywood or even TV where it's this kind of broken family and these kinds of issues that people have to deal with, and again to incorporate them into a horror film was great, because usually it's all perfect families, the Griswolds.
Yes. Like, sure, they've
Not
got
that was a horror movie. That could have been written as a horror movie.
Absolutely.
Vacation, the whole Vacation franchise.
Yeah. Cousin Eddie alone is like enough.
Clark. Sparky.
But yeah, you make a really good point that I actually didn't even look at it in that way, as to where, like, this is a narrative about these kids who just want, especially Becca, who really wants to know where she comes from, and she wants to find out like who these people are, and it's even it's very apparent, and it goes far beyond her just being a filmmaker. Is that like when they get there to the house and she's like, oh my God, this is the grandfather clock that Mom tells us about.
Right. This was the swing that she told us about when she used to wait for her friends. And look, Grandma and I have the same eyes.
And it's super adorable.
We'll get back to that.
And it's super adorable, like the way that she's going about doing this, and
it's sincere.
Yeah, very sincere. And so they get there and they start to settle in and stuff, and Grandma and Grandpa, they're all asking questions, and they want to get to know him, and blah blah blah. What do you like to do? Yada yada. Grandpa, like we said, they live on a farm.
Like, why do you wear your pants so low, young? And it's like, I'm sure thousands of grandparents and grandkids have had that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always
in the last 10, 20 years.
Yeah, I've had that conversation. Like, why do you wear black lipstick? Like,
and then he raps for the. She's like, I love the whole that whole transaction. One, let you know that there is a good relationship between brother and sister, because she's like setting him up. Yeah, she's setting him up for props. She's like, oh yeah, he his stage name is something. Yeah, I don't remember.
Give him a subject and he'll rap about it.
Yeah, right. She's like, ooh, and Grandma's like, and this is where you like Grandma. She's down. She's like, I like food. Can it be about food? And they're like, yeah. She's like, okay, pineapple upside down cake. We're like, go, Grandma. That's a good one.
Right. And you're like, oh, she's awesome.
Hey, tough one. All right. And the kid's like, he's up for the challenge, and he does one, and he pulls off that particular rhyme after many horrible rhymes, but he does get to the upside down pineapple cake. And I wonder again, like, did they just tell this kid like he could do his own freestyle? That like he's not supposed to be a good freestylist. Like, that's part of his character.
Well, yeah, he's 13.
In real life, that actor, maybe he's the most amazing or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, like, again, just nailing that, like, okay, it's not so horrible that somebody needs to have an intervention and tell them, like, look, you need another hobby or another face or whatever.
But it's not so great that you're like, somebody else is writing this.
Right, exactly. Right? It's just like... I wonder.
Yeah,
I have so many questions I'd like to ask the cast and crew, actually, really.
That is a good one. And he also likes to, throw ho at the end of it, which
which is a 13-year-old boy thing, though.
Yeah, but I was horrified that he did it in front of his grandmother.
Right? And his sister did.
No, she didn't bat an eyelash.
But it was funny when they're on the train, and the guy who, like, kind of looks like Mos Def. It's like they're...
mostly deaf.
Right, this guy's mostly deaf. But he's the train conductor. He takes their tickets. And he sees this is another kind of, like, ongoing gag throughout the movie, because another just nice little writing, storytelling technique is every time a stranger got in front of Becca's camera, they're like, oh, I used to...
I used to be. They would start to perform.
They start performing, right? Like an audition. Because they want to be in the movie.
It's like, she's 15, right?
So it's like everybody wants to be in a movie. Everybody from the trade porter to the head psychiatrist.
And I guess that's also a nice little, like, a way to be like, we're not in the big city. Right. We're absolutely in, like, Podunk, wherever.
Yeah, right. They just seen the camera.
Yeah.
Like, they're impressing. Hi there. Like, not realizing that everybody's phone has this capacity.
Right.
This happens every time you go to the Circle K.
So, I mean, everything seems to be going along pretty well, and but like, there's a lot of like the first thing the grandparents once they get there, and I think it's as soon as they get to the house or something, Grandpa's like, "Don't go in the basement. There's mold."
Right.
And there's like, "Okay, sure, that's cool."
He's
And
like, "Oh, you guys are good kids. This is gonna be a great week." He's like, "Go, Grandpa. That dude's kind of scary looking, but he says the nicest things."
he's running around, like chopping wood and doing shit in the shed.
Typical standard farmer grandpa stuff.
Sure. But like a lot of strange things start to happen, and like where I think the first one
They
that
establish also that the younger brother, this is another important, before we get too far
okay,
into the farm, they establish on the train that ever since dad left, he's
hmm
been a germaphobe, and this is his way of controlling the world that he can't otherwise control.
right,
Right? Again, establishing that these kids have mental health as an important part of this entire movie.
yeah, there are a lot of little I don't want to say clues as to what's going to happen, but just little tidbits that are
Well,
dropped
that
in
everything
there.
ties together. Everything has its purpose.
Yeah, it's all dropped in there, and sometimes it feels like, oh, like why? That just seems kind of
This
random.
this
But
story and this narrative, like it really, I hope it was nominated for some good writing. I would consider it a very good, well written story because everything was used.
yeah,
Even in the very beginning, when he's in on the train, he's like, "Yeah, I could wrap the end of your movie," and she's like,
yeah,
"Yeah, that's how Oscars get won, right?" Okay, so first of all, no horror movie, to my knowledge, and I'm not that smart, has ever won an Oscar.
I'm not sure.
Or I don't even know if Oscars are what they give films versus TV. You
Yes,
fill in the blank here.
Oscars
I need
film.
you to fill in the gaps.
Oscars are film.
Okay, and so is any horror
I know
film?
there's no horror
Right. So
genre.
M Light's kind of
No
like making
horror.
a joke at his own like genre for there. Like,
Right.
like that's it, But of course, Becca doesn't think she's making a horror movie. Becca thinks she's making like a Lifetime series documentary about drama. So
Right.
she thinks she might be up for an Oscar with her rapping brother, and he wants to rap the end of her movie. And she's like, "Yeah, that's how you win Oscars
Right.
with raps about misogyny
Yeah.
at the end." Like she calls him out on his hoe and all that
Yes.
other stuff.
Okay, so to answer your question, The Exorcist was the only true horror film to be nominated for Best Picture in Academy Award history until '91. One true horror film won Best Picture, Silence of the Lambs, and that was
Huh.
also classified as a thriller. But
There you go. Well, if I were a writing instructor
mm,
teaching fiction or screenplay writing, and really just fiction, I would definitely assign The Visit as a study. We could talk about it because really, like, that was the very beginning. Seemed like off the cuff stuff,
mm-hmm.
So he planted these things with
Seeds.
foreshadowings, if you
Yeah.
will, and but in a very kind of unseeming way. We saw it twice, which is why we sound so knowledgeable of it.
Right. But it's still like it's things you catch but don't really think about until like you see it again, and then you're like,
Right, right.
okay, like once you've seen that's part of the beauty of watching a movie after you've seen the plot twist already. Like once you've seen it,
Which
through,
is also
and then,
Sixth Sense.
right, yeah, you start to like because that was when I was absolutely like I need to see this again.
Right.
So
This would be what I would consider like the storytelling format is the double dip. Like with the plot twist, you want to go back and see it again
oh, okay,
now that you know that. It's like
right.
Pulp Fiction, Sixth
Fight Club.
Sense. Yeah, Fight Club is what I meant to say. I don't know why I've got those two mixed up in my head.
But
It's
yes,
forever there.
Fight Club is
Anyway.
always one that
Yeah, Fight Club, The Visit, Sixth Sense. In any event, when you go back the second time though with this one, you really see how nothing's left out
Mm-hmm.
and how everything had its purpose to advance the plot.
And it all
Whereas I
makes sense.
didn't really with Sixth Sense that wasn't necessarily the case, or with Fight Club that wasn't necessarily the case. Like this was really everything was used.
Mm-hmm. And it all made really good sense with it as well. There was like I think when Tyler's the first one that starts to between the two kids who starts like something's not right here.
Well, he found a shed full of
Well, no, but he was
grown people diapers,
well.
and
This
he's
is
a germaphobe.
but no, like here's the thing that he was even curious about. It was weird to him that Pop kept going into the shed, and there was one time where he was outside and he calls to him like three separate times, and he never answers or
Right,
acknowledges him,
right.
and he's like, "What the fuck is in the shed?" So he goes off looking in the shed and finds
A pile
shitty
of pop diapers.
diapers. Now, here's my my question is that a person who is a germaphobe, you go into a shed.
You hear fly.
Yes, he acknowledges that it smells like shit in there. And I'm sure the closer he got to that unidentifiable pile, the stronger that shit smell got. Why would he pick anything up off of it, out of her?
I have no idea. Like he had the presence of mind. He earlier in the movie he made a deal with his sister. For just said instead of swearing, I'm going to use female pop star names. And so he like jumps out of there. It's like Carrie Underwood, right?
Yeah.
There's like many little jokes that move things along, right? Many good little writing techniques. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things there where the trip would have been over for me. That would have been one of them. That would have been the first. I'm like, oh, we're gone. Sorry. Hey, don't need that many roots. I'll remember this though forever. So you'll always live right here near my gag reflex. I'm out.
Oh my god.
The grandma's like, oh, don't worry about it. Grandpa has incontinence. He's a little embarrassed about it, so he stores them in the shed and then piles them up and burns them in the fields.
How is that
Are
better?
We good now, dear?
Yes. No, that's not. How is that better than like wrapping it up in a newspaper in a bag and then throwing it away in the trash can? Like, I don't. So you're just saving them up for
burning.
It was a big pile. It was a giant pile.
God, I hope I never have to figure this problem out. I'm sorry for people that suffer with incontinence, but M. Night really put it out there.
Yeah, he did a little bit more so than I would like.
Oh yeah, because those diapers. But it's not the last we've seen of them.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to.
So I think that was like the same day or the next day that they were there. Their other visit. I think it was like day 2 of their visit, maybe, when he found that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he gets like an explanation. Once again, just chalk it up to old.
Yeah.
Being old.
Yeah.
And then grandma makes some cookies. The little girl Becca is like all about these cookies, and they're told to not come out of the room after 9:30. Like bedtime's 9:30.
Well, the first night they were there, Grandma was throwing up downstairs.
Okay, so that was after.
That was Monday night.
So so that was the same day that Tyler found the shitty diapers. Then.
No, that was the next day. I don't know. And the first thing that happened was Grandma was walking around downstairs throwing up. The next thing that happened was that he found the diapers.
So regardless, yeah.
The next day they tell Mom.
Yeah, Becca's going downstairs and to get cookies, and then she sees Grandma wandering around and just throwing up as she's walking in the living room, just on the floor, and just keeps walking, just pukes and keeps going, and then she starts to talk to Granddad about this stuff, and once again, she's old. We're going to talk about being old.
It's a real thing.
And so even up to this point, Tyler is still like, something is not right. Becca's like, oh, they're old. That's just, and she looks up sundowning, and she's like, it's a real thing, and it's all makes sense. And they try to warn Mom, they try to tell Mom, and Mom's like, they're old. So
yeah, she's like, I knew this call would come. Right, and we're both like,
what is it?
One of you's gonna get sacrificed, because the whole thing about why did Mom leave or what happened that day was a big
Mom
mystery
too.
Mom won't tell him, sends him off to see him. So I'm totally expecting. Part of it was because of the trailer ads and the advertisements where they show Grandma putting Becca in the oven,
right?
And then there's also the Hansel and Gretel and the witch sticking the kids in the oven, and then there's the Holocaust. Never forget.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking something along the lines of like Wicker Man or something where
right. Yeah, one of you is getting baked in a pie so that I can get married.
Yeah.
Or some weird,
exactly.
Some Buffy the Vampire Slayer twist of the Joss Whedon.
Yeah, like what I thought
thrown in there.
I thought that I would be able to, I figured out that all of these things have been going wrong in my life for the reason because I haven't done the sacrificial.
Right. I never sacrificed my firstborn. Sorry, Becca. Hopefully your brother can finish editing your film after they feed you to the monster downstairs. Love you. On a scale from 1 to 10, I love you 11. Bye.
Thanks for doing this. It's great. So they're still like going on and on with like, trying to connect with them. They take a trip into town with Pop to go see some of Mom's old hangouts.
Yeah, and they play the game. Talk about the game.
Okay, so there's this game these kids play, and I think it's cute, and I don't know if I'm creative enough to play it, but they drive along and they just pick a random building and they guess. They pick a
make
person.
Up a character that works there.
Yeah, and says like what they're.
And has a secret.
Yeah, and so they try to play this game with Pop, And the one thing, like for example, the one thing that they point out is the police station, and they say that's Jerry, or Jerry works there, and he never answers the
The
phone.
kids say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he never answers the phone, and then Grandpa interrupts with like some real, I don't know, I forget what he tells them. Does he
It's
point
like
out
that's the factory that he used to work at.
Okay,
They used to manufacture cars over there or something.
and it's just so Mom has told them nothing really
And then
about.
there was Maple Heights.
Did he point out
Yeah, he's like, I'll have to get my badge and we'll go visit sometime.
the insane asylum?
Yeah, where he was a counselor,
Right.
also escapee, right?
Whoa, whoa. We haven't gotten to that. But when he's like pointing out and he talks about where he used to work and everything, it's like Mom has told them nothing, or he has.
No,
Okay.
neither. She's like, Mom told us you worked in coal, and he's like,
Uh,
yeah, I used to also work at this factory. You know,
Okay.
and that's all.
okay.
But what was interesting was, as you pointed out later, and we're gonna have to jump ahead a little bit.
Okay.
During there's a point in time in which Mom needs to call the police,
Hmm.
and she calls the police station, and it's like, hey, this is Sheriff Jerry. Can't come to the phone right now, right?
Right.
And so now I'm wondering, as you pointed that out to me,
Hmm.
like, are we to infer that Nana and Pop Pop took care of the sheriff of this small ass town? They could have. There's like nothing going on in this town.
Interesting.
Like, right.
Okay.
Or is that just M. Night
Being
Shyamalan
clever?
playing with us?
Just being cute?
Just being cute.
It could be it. So while the
I
kids,
like to think that there was a murder.
so while the kids are
You think
out,
what you want to think.
well, while the kids are out and about with Pop Pop, he says that he picks out some guy on the street and is like, this dude's following us. And he
Right.
goes and kicks off in his ass,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Stop looking at us. Like, what are you talking about, man? I ain't looking at you. I guess you are. And like Grandpa hauls ass and like, look how insanely strong he is. Like, oh, I guess all he does is chop wood. And you thought it was M. Night
I did.
Shyamalan, but it was like an avatar. And then you were thinking like you were getting some justice for the village. You thought that maybe M. Night had some mental breakthroughs himself in his own mental health journeys,
Yes.
and realized that he needed to have his ass beat
on film
by his
for
fan
everybody to
base.
see.
Right. And you're a little disappointed to find
Yeah.
out that it wasn't him.
I was a little disappointed.
It's
because,
okay.
And I also think, but I think that he, because he does pop
Maybe
up,
he did.
because he tries to like pull like the whole
The
Hitchcock,
Hitchcock,
thing.
yeah. Or
And he's-
Stanley.
And he's been like in a couple of his films, just bit parts. And I think he was in Signs, and I think Mel Gibson whoops his ass in Signs. Like I forget what happens.
Well,
Like,
maybe then he is having fun with his audience and being like,
maybe,
yeah,
but so
because
yeah,
he knows how critical you guys are.
Yeah. Yeah. So and we'll get there. They go back home, and once again, this is chalked up to him being old, which
Paranoia happens to old people. Yeah, I see a lot of old people whooping ass.
Right, just on
on
the
total
regular.
strangers.
yeah,
Right.
and which I feel like is this kind of a narrative on old people just kind of getting a bad rep.
Well, and also how gullible these kids are. Just they just want things to be fine and
Becca
smooth things
does.
over.
Tyler
Yeah.
does not.
Right. No.
He
Yeah.
knows. He's
yeah.
like Becca is blind.
It's
He's
time
like,
for the secret cameras, Becca. She's like, no, that's against cinematographic ethics.
Yeah. So like after 9:30, sometime like 10:30 at night, 11 at night, they start hearing these weird noises outside of their room.
Yeah.
And
They always open the door.
Yeah. One night,
And
Grandma.
they always regret what they see.
Exactly. One night, Grandma's like running back and forth down the hall.
Right.
The next
With her
night,
arms behind her back.
Yeah.
Head first into nothing.
yeah. Next
And-
night, Grandma's like naked, stark naked, just scratching on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she crawls really well.
Yeah.
Really well.
Yeah. Okay.
Like scarily
so,
well. Like
all right,
she's had a lot of
So
practice
speaking
on all
of
fours.
Freezing.
Moving around. Being crazy.
So speaking of
Damn.
crawling
right?
around,
Let's see what the old guy sees in her.
the hide and seek,
Oh,
seek
yeah.
game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's also where the trip would have. I think that was the first time the trip would have been over for me because that
Yeah.
happened before the diapers.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like immediately. They're like, oh, look, I bet your mom played hide and seek under the porch.
Yeah. And so they go under there and they start to play hide and seek, and then they start hearing this.
Right. I'm gonna get you.
So they're like, what? And then Sure to find out, it's like grandma is under there chasing them, and she looks
And
like,
fast.
yeah, she's got her like all crazy hair all over her.
All in front.
She looks
Her
like
hair's all
the
forward.
character in The Ring that comes crawling out of the TV.
Was that another M. Night
It's
Shyamalan?
not M. Night Shyamalan,
I
but you
haven't
never
seen
saw
it.
that one.
Uh-uh.
But yeah, so for listeners out there who are familiar with that, that's what Grandma looked like when she was
Right.
crawling around very
Right.
quickly and crazy, like chasing these kids underneath the porch.
Yeah.
Becca,
They both dive out.
they both get out, and then Grandma comes out, and you're not expecting
Cameras
this.
flung.
Right. So from typical horror movie fashion, yeah, this seems about right. Something creepy is happening. Grandma's possessed. Whatever. She's crawling around under the house. The kids leap from under the house, and Grandma follows them. Like she's outside too. You're not expecting that.
Right.
And she's cracking up, laughing, and she stands up and like dusts the dirt off her knees and was like,
Right.
"Oh, that was fun.
Right.
I'm making chicken pot pie." Anybody
Right.
want-
Right. Exactly. Right. And again,
So-
amazing acting.
Right. And so that leaves the audience still like, what is happening? Like seriously, what is going on with these people? And I don't understand.
Right.
Because it's another like misdirection. Because you're immediately, we always think possession. That's where we go to when it's like, okay, grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
are
Whenever you
actors.
see somebody crawling backwards
Right.
on the ground.
Yeah.
Or on a ceiling.
And that's what she looks like. So immediately, our minds go there, and it's like, well, was she only possessed in the house? And like, so you're racking your brain trying to figure out all like what in the hell could possibly be.
Right.
really
And I
happening
kept waiting for her to be crawling on the ceiling. That never happened.
That was
Because
kind of
in the end, this wasn't a paranormal movie.
right. Yeah. And so you're looking for the paranormal activity. Now, at some point, I was expecting her to like slither underneath the door, like,
Right.
like,
Anything. Or just poof.
yeah, just
Yeah.
appear.
Yeah.
So
I was waiting for that yellow-eyed white thing that Grandpa saw in the factory.
oh yeah.
Before, and this is what. Okay, so let me spend a little time on Grandpa.
Okay.
So throughout the movie, at this point, I don't know what day we are, and I hope we're not going down the whole week. We have to get to the reveal pretty soon here. But Grandpa, during his interview with Becca in her documentary, establishes that he worked in this factory, which we alluded to earlier. She's like, "Oh yeah, Mom never told us that." He's like, "Yeah, I saw this white thing with yellow eyes, and I used to see it all the time, and then I started telling people about it. Then they stopped talking to me, and then I've been alone." And she's like, "No, yeah, Mom never told us that. It's so strange." She's like, "Yeah, well, that happened after your mother left. But that thing is real." And then they also kind of established throughout the movie that he has this kind of like recurring,
Delusion.
yeah, sure, we'll call it a delusion. I don't know. I'm not as trained mental health
Psycho,
professional, but he thinks he's going to a Halloween party.
Right.
And he keeps dressing up to go to it. It's a company party. It's like, we're going to take the train into town and go to this Halloween party. It's like, that's not happening right now. I'm sorry.
Just,
And then he goes back into being like normal grandpa.
right.
But
But I'm sorry, just for a quick second. I feel like this is a missed opportunity for him to have been dressed in actual costumes, like real crazy looking fucking like
would have been all,
masks or
yeah, right.
something. Like-
But you have to. Well, after we talk about the reveal, we'll talk
Okay.
about the limitation he had with
Okay.
the resources available. But nonetheless, I love how he's like always kind of, and you're also, with that story having been told, I'm wondering if the company didn't have an intervention and told him there was a costume party. They're like, dress up, yeah, and he was like happy people finally talked to him, and that's how he ended up being locked up.
right.
Later. In any event, all right, fuck it. These are not their grandparents. These are two crazy people that escaped from the psychotic. They kill their grandparents and stay them in the basement. And they've been faking it the whole time. So freaky. Ick.
So yeah. So so there's a couple times where people come by to visit Nana and Pop Pop. The first time, just walks away. Where are you going? That's it? You done? So I don't remember what the first guy was. Was he a doctor at Maple Shades that came to visit?
The first person that came to the house. Yeah. The
Okay.
first guy was, yeah.
Okay. So
Doctor.
comes to visit, and coincidentally enough, Nana and Pop Pop are out, and the kids are whatever. So they come by to see. He comes by to see him. He's like, oh, he missed their appointment. They missed their appointment the other day, or they usually come by the hospital to volunteer. They didn't happen. He's checking on them. Then a couple days later, old Cindy Lou or whoever comes by with a blueberry cobbler.
Yeah, why not?
Because again, they weren't at the
Yeah,
hospital.
she was in rehab and she was coming off of drugs. They were really sweet to her, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yes.
She's the kind of person you would give your address to.
Which makes it very clear how they got in the situation that they were
They're
in.
way too trusting.
Yeah.
Grandma and Grandpa, the ones dead in the basement,
Yeah.
were way too trusting.
Yeah,
With the
exactly.
crazy people at the hospital they volunteered at.
Right. And there was at some point, like, when Susie Lou Q or whatever, she's like, "Oh, did you guys hear about the scuttlebutt that happened down at Maple Shade?" And the kids are like, "No," and nobody goes any further with that.
Right.
I'm assuming scuttlebutt is like something that had happened.
Like a breakout.
Yes. So apparently there was a breakout. So fast forward, we get to the point, and like when shit starts to get real is when the kids make a call to mom. Finally, like they're Skyping, and they're like,
they got the batter off the camera. Like,
yes,
this is
grandma had fucked up
when
the
she made
camera.
the cookies.
Yeah.
Right. She accidentally got some batter just on the lens of the camera.
Like
on the laptop,
Yes.
for people that Skype.
Right. And so like they're talking to mom, and they're like, shit is weird. We need you to come get us now. And I forget. Oh, it was when they hid the camera at night, and grandma found it.
And she had a knife in her hand and
outside
was
their
banging
room.
on their door.
Yes.
Right.
So that's
like,
when.
Okay, mom, come get us now. Oh, you're back. You're sunburnt. Great. You got into a fight. Big deal. We 5.
We're
Level
level 5.
5. Mom, you're talking
Right.
too much. Like.
It's like, oh, and look at the postcards that we picked up too.
Right. They're like, Mom, Grandma had a knife. At this point in time, like the kids don't still realize that these are not their grandparents.
Right.
So they lift up the laptop and they point it out the window at Grandma and Grandpa out there, and Mom's like, I need you two to listen to me. Like,
Now this, I feel like
just
she was a
listen
little
to me.
too calm.
Way too calm.
Like she should have been on the phone at that point already.
Oh yeah. And like with the
She should have been halfway out of like down.
grab the
the,
go bag I packed you guys. It's bright red bag in each of your suitcases. Go.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah, and at this point the kids spent way too much time in the house.
Mm-hmm. So mom is like, yeah, listen to me. Those are not your grandparents. Where are your grandparents? You've been staying with these people all week. Like, there's too many questions. Obviously, something they showed you people they thought were their grandparents.
Right. And you and I are both like, who wouldn't show their grandkids pictures of their grandparents? Like,
Right.
what in the world? Who would do that? Then I'm like, I guess I've never seen a picture of my grandfather from my mom's side. I've never seen a picture of my grandma or grandpa on
So
my dad's
apparently,
side.
this is a phenomenon that
happens
does,
to white people. To white privileged people.
So we beg of you, even if you are estranged from your family, show your children
the pictures, right? Like, I didn't even have a picture of my biological father. Like, growing up, I looked through the album, and it's like my mom and this headless man in a wedding. Like, she cut his face and head out of every single picture of him, but kept the pictures, right?
Oh, my
Like,
God.
But kept the pictures,
like
kept
framed?
the memory.
Like in frame?
No, like in a freaking album. Like, there's like 3
Wow.
albums like this.
Wow.
Swear to God, I had no idea what my bio dad looked like.
Oh, my
until
God.
I actually met him in my 30s or 20s. Or late
So yeah,
somewhere.
guys, no matter what your relationship is with your family members that you don't want to hang out with anymore, that's fine. But still, you need to show your kids
Pictures.
what they look like
So that-
because things happen.
right, not everybody had Ancestry.com. It's a good
Right.
thing M. Night got this in before Ancestry really became a thing.
No,
It's because I don't think it's a thing yet. I don't even know if there's pictures. There's like paper.
I don't think there's pictures. I think
This should have been
I think it's just
sponsored by
census.
Ancestry.com. This is almost like a reason for Ancestry.com. For parents who don't have pictures of their ancestors, Ancestry.com. Why wouldn't they have pictures? I mean, why wouldn't the kids have done some of their
Asked.
own Googling research?
Yeah.
Like stuff.
That's another thing too. Like I feel like Becca would have most
As the
definitely-
documentary. Yeah, right.
Yes.
She should have done her research.
She would have been doing like a lot of like digging to find out.
Other thing that was weird, like they did these kind of like very kind of artistic stills shots, but still in video. Like throughout the movie, there was one, like for instance, when the kids first got off the train and they're walking along, and they showed a reflection in glass of grandma and grandpa, hugging each other, like, oh, we're so happy, and then so on and so forth. And then there was one that was kind of like from the window in the kitchen to the pictures on the fridge, and there was a picture of Nana and Papa as we've known them throughout the whole movie with
Right.
this other couple.
Right.
And so I'm like, maybe that other couple was grandma and grandpa and real.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to
Is that
be
what
a
you thought
picture
after
of
the
them
reveal?
somewhere.
Or before.
Well, both. No, after the reveal.
Yeah,
after the
they
reveal.
definitely were, because when she goes down in the basement and finds them, they're underneath a bunch of photos
Oh, gotcha.
of real grandma. and
Oh, okay,
grandpa.
okay. So that was in fact them. I didn't. Okay,
Yeah.
so Yeah,
So apparently,
crazy, but stealth
and
and
smart as
very
hell.
smart. Yeah,
Yeah.
very calculating, very manipulative.
So basically, I guess, real grandma and grandpa have been helping, or, volunteering at this mental asylum and just talking about their real lives to
Yeah, two crazy
patients
people.
and telling them about how excited they were
Right,
about
right,
the.
and after the reveal, of course, Grandpa's trying to kill one of the children in the
Mhm.
basement, as we're not surprised, and he's like, "Well, it's their own fault, really. They shouldn't have told Claire
Truth.
that he had a couple of grandkids coming. They knew that's not fair to Claire. After Claire stuck her two kids in a suitcase and put them in the pond, that she
Truth.
never had grandchildren of her own."
Speak the truth, old man.
Is that the truth, old man? I'm like, okay, well, yeah,
That's
okay,
the truth.
yes, yes.
It is
This
their
is
own fault.
you were raised by America's Most Wanted on TV. I was raised by Different Strokes.
You don't tell people your business. Especially crazy mofos who have put their children in a suitcase and then tossed them in a pond.
Right, 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 right. You don't tell them your real name,
Right.
where you live, like any of that stuff. Like, how do they find out where they lived?
Because apparently they just give out
Like,
that sort
hey,
of thing.
here's our mail. Here's some mail that came to our
What they
house.
probably did is they probably mailed everybody
A
Christmas,
Christmas card. Right, you're right. You are 100% correct. Even if you're not, as far as I'm concerned, arm wrestle M. Night on this plot point. That's how they found out where they lived.
So yeah. So yeah, that's when like shit, and this is just like the minute that mom finds out that that's not her kids, or that's not their grandparents, that's when everything just like everything is terrifying.
She calls the local
Just-
police, and that's when you find out, hey, this is Sheriff Jerry. I can't come to the phone right now.
Right, she's like fucking Hicktown.
Right. So we're guessing that was like between 1:30 and 3:30 in the afternoons. Maybe we'll call it 2:30.
Right.
This
Maybe
was
it's
like
it looked like
the reveal.
Yeah.
It was late afternoon,
Yes.
and then
Grandpa's ready to play.
and then I feel like Mr. Shyamalan inserted how he felt about game board night with his grandparents into the movie because it was all too real. It was all too real, and the perfect thing to overlay. Like now, the kids know that these aren't their actual grandparents, so they come in the house and they're like, "How about we make it a perfect family night?" Like I can see this shit being said to Mr. Shyamalan as a child.
We've all been there. It's where you're like forced to play Monopoly for like 8
And then
hours.
she does this whole other get in the oven thing, and then she closes the oven on her. Just gets tough. That just took a second, and like we know now that like and then and the brother was useless, but that's another part of the story. Like he's just standing there filming it.
Yeah, I don't.
Nobody screams. Props to Becca, the character, for not screaming.
Yeah, she absolutely kept
She's
her
like,
cool.
Nana, you wanna open up that
Could you please let me
that
out now?
door? Yeah. I'm gonna ask one more time. Nana. Hey there.
If you wouldn't be too much trouble.
Could you open up the oven door? Let me out. And then that finally comes down, and like you don't even get a chance to finally like react to that, and then Grandpa comes around the corner. He's like, "How about Yahtzee?" Or let's make it a perfect family night, whatever it was.
Whatever it was,
was
he was psyched
creepy.
about Yahtzee.
Oh yeah. And then Grandma gets right in the camera. He's like, "Grandpa's very competitive about board games. Beware." Oh, shit.
So they're all sitting around playing Yahtzee and crap, and and I don't know why. At some point, Grandpa says something about Yahtzee. Mr. Milton Bradley would be whatever about whoever makes it, and then Becca feels compelled to
Well,
correct
she just
him.
came out of an oven.
Right. She feels
She's feeling some kind of way about the world right now. She's like, if I'm gonna have to play games with people who just put me in an oven,
You're gonna get the shit right.
it's Hasbro, bitches. Hasbro makes the game. And then he starts to dig it. He's like, "No, it's Milton Bradley."
And Tyler is like, who cares? It's just we're having fun. It doesn't really.
Right, guys? Just keep it rolling. Just keep it smooth.
We're just having a good time. It's just everybody be okay. And so they're just like playing, and then at the end point, Becca decides she does her brother dirty and just leaves him there, and is like, "Oh, my camera battery's dying." She decides to go downstairs to go investigate in the basement, and the poor brother, poor Tyler. She's like, "Stay here,
By
Tyler."
himself at the table with Grandma
Yeah.
and Grandpa.
She said, "Stay here, Tyler," and he's just like looking terrified. She goes off in the basement, and then as soon as she leaves, I guess 9:30 hits at that exact moment. Grandpa shits himself.
Yep.
You hear, and it took me the second viewing. The first time I heard it, I just thought it was thunder
Right.
happening outside,
No.
but
Right next to the kid with the germ problem.
yes, you hear Grandpa shit himself, and then Grandma starts to snatch up cookies and eat them like a chipmunk.
Right. Just one after, like two, double fisted. And
And Grandpa like
she's getting on a sugar high because she's probably not allowed to eat sugar now that we're putting the pieces together.
and Grandpa slowly gets up like he's got a pants full of like a diaper full of shit on,
Yep.
and slowly walks out of the room.
Right. And she's chomping down the sugar cookies, and she looks straight into the camera and goes, Yahtzee! Like, I think M. Night Shyamalan hated the game Yahtzee. That's what it comes down to. Because Yahtzee itself somehow became an element of horror.
Yeah.
Like,
I never want to play. I've never played Yahtzee.
the thing that scares you the most is your family. Except the only thing worse than that is they're not.
Yes,
They're escapees from a
exactly.
mental health institution.
You're like fucking spending a week with these people that you think are your grandparents, and that's a whole nother level. So like, there's a level of shit that you will accept. Oh, it's just grandma and grandpa. It's just family.
Right. That's
Like,
family.
Had these been had they known they were strangers, all the same shit that there's like, oh, it's old. They were like, no,
Right.
no, absolutely wouldn't have gotten down that full list. So basically, what?
They were at a 5 the whole time.
Yes, they didn't know it. They didn't accept it just because they thought it was grandma and grandpa.
Right.
Y'all bitches were at a 5 when you got on that train.
Right.
So like shit just starts to just unravel and just.
Hope you had incredible sex, Mom, on your cruise.
That's gonna fuck her up too.
You're
Like,
not allowed to be in a bad mood forever.
She's never gonna date again. She's never gonna let these kids out of her sight.
Nope, I picked an online college for you.
Oh my god. So yeah, shit. I don't even know where else to go. Like Becca finds her real grandparents dead in the basement. Obviously,
Right,
like
runs for her life.
Runs into grandpa.
Gets locked into the bedroom with Grandma. All right, now this is like I'm gonna take over at this point
Okay.
on the narrative, and Grandpa's like, apparently Grandpa had, before he went down to go kill Becca in the basement, had knocked Tyler out on the head. Right, so as he's dragging Becca up the stairs from the basement, we see Tyler's throbbing red forehead in the foreground. Right, and like he's incapacitated. He's holding his head. He can't move. She's like, "Tyler, they're murderers! Run!" He's like laid out like a puddle on the floor. Right, he's like, "I'll get to that just as soon as I regain consciousness or the ability to move." Because the other thing he establishes with his sister during her interview of him was that like he feels like one of the reasons their dad left him and the family was because he froze during a football game. He was supposed to tackle the guy, he froze, and he's a freezer. And like this was hard for him. And like his dad wasn't mad at him, didn't say anything to him, didn't try to correct the behavior, didn't ask him what was going on in the car, just kind of like without a word. This is the last transaction this poor kid has with his dad. Right. His core memory for those of you that watched Inside Out. And similarly, Becca had gotten at least a letter, a note. He gave her a note. Was like, "Hey, sorry, kid, I'm out of here," right? And she's never been able to look at herself in the mirror again. And the brother, when he's behind the camera, kind of like, there's a lot of cinematography ethics as part of this backdrop, this dynamic between the sister and the brother about hidden cameras and how that wasn't ethical because they had to be participants. If they weren't participants in the shot, then they weren't allowed to take the shot. And he bought it, right? Yeah, they didn't want to be exploited. He adhered to those rules and various other times when they decided to put the camera on Grandma and Grandpa until they both were like, okay. Shania Twain has hit the fan. It's time to put out some secret cameras, cause I'm having some problems.
Okay, so
That man scared the Tyler Swift out of me.
Taylor's.
Whatever.
So he's dragged.
Yeah. So they do a good job. He interviews her, she interviews him, and he reveals, how come you don't look at yourself in the mirror anymore? Like, doesn't feel very good. Anyway, so they establish that these kids have some fears. So after Grandpa locks Becca in the bedroom with Grandma, who's sundowning.
Sundown,
Right. And at this point, they go a little Blair Witch Project with the shots. It's like the light from the camera is on Grandma's face, and then it goes away, and then it's dark, and then again you see her feet scuttling under the bed, and then all kinds of great physical acting.
Yeah.
And Grandpa's got Tyler stood up like a wiffle ball stand in the kitchen, and he's like taking off his soiled diapers, puts them on the counter. No.
Oh, okay.
Puts his pants back on, walks up to him, and the camera somehow is catching all this. Grandpa's put the camera down, so that this kid, he's like, leans down to Tyler's ear. He's like, I never liked you. Gets back up, walks back over to the end of the counter.
It's like a whole nother level, just rude.
Right. Then we shoot back up to Becca and her fucking nightmare, right? And then this is all going on with Grandma under the bed, on the bed, and Becca's trying to hide on the bed. Because now Grandma's underneath furniture and shit. And so Becca's all like, where? It's like a mouse on the ground. Stands on the tallest piece of furniture. Now you're back down in the basement, or the kitchen, and Tyler's just standing there, like frozen. And Grandpa grabs his diaper and starts walking toward him. And he's like, you got a problem with germs, don't you? Rubs that diaper in his face. And we're like, what the hell? Then you go back up and Grandma is sliding up under the covers of the bed, which, if you're a kid afraid of monsters under your bed, this is going to ruin your sleep for the next several years. Parents, don't take your kids to this movie. Because it'll screw up everything with your grandparents. It'll screw up everything with under the bed.
Years
and
of training
basements
will be undone.
off limits. So much stuff. Anyway, it's like Grandma slides under the sheets and then tries to eat Becca or something or whatever. Even before that, Becca has to face the mirror for some reason. She's got the camera. She's facing the mirror.
Yeah.
She's got her eyes closed. She won't look in the mirror.
Right.
So she doesn't look at herself in the mirror. Kid germaphobe and frozen. Diaper in his face. Still hasn't moved.
Covered in adult shit.
Becca gets her head smashed, face smashed into the mirror. So she's got to deal with the mirror. She grabs a piece of the mirror. The mirror then later becomes the weapon she used to kill Grandma as Grandma tries to eat her from inside the bed. And then after killing Grandma with the mirror, Becca somehow found the sturdiest camera in the world and used the camera to break the knob off of the door, which then, of course, unlocked it. And then she goes down and saves Tyler from further humiliation and horrible things going on.
She snaps him out of it.
She tackles Grandpa. She's on top of Grandpa, beating him. Tyler goes mental and starts having this football moment in his head. And he's like, watch the hips. Number 52. Run. This kid that did the acting thing is just great. He totally lost his shit and kills Grandpa. Right?
Grandpa.
So Becca kills Grandma by facing her fears of the mirror. Little boy kills Grandpa by facing his fears and unfreezing and dealing with his germophobia and all that other stuff. And then then the police finally come. At this point, it's 11:30 at night.
Right.
Okay. So that's it.
That's it. That's the big reveal. That is it. And from that moment when Mom said that, those aren't your grandparents, I was immediately my stomach was in knots. I was like, oh my God, this is what's happening right now. And I was it very much worked as a horror film. That was so up until this point, I was watching and taking it all in, still expecting some, because they gave us there was a little throw in there about aliens, and we're like, all right.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, Grandma believes that when she put her two kids in the suitcases in the pond, that aliens took them into a deep, peaceful sleep.
So we're getting is this paranormal? Is this aliens?
Right.
Is this
right? If aliens show up, I'm gonna be pissed.
Right.
If any aliens show up. And so that's why I give my props again to Mr. Shyamalan.
Right.
For this was a horror film about stuff that could have really happened. No paranormal, no aliens. I'm glad that you broke from your comfort zone.
Yes. It was
and gave these two old people this is somebody that's got sundowning and a couple of other psychological issues. And you, sir, you're going to get the schizophrenia and depression and constant. And I need you guys to study these psychology books. Basically, that's When I say go, you start to exhibit the symptoms. Just whatever you want.
Right.
Like, I wonder how
Throw 'em
much
in there.
freedom they had to exhibit these symptoms, because it was just
It was very well
convincing.
It was, yeah.
They were just as convincing as crazy people. And I don't mean to say, I'm sure I'm offending. I'm not being politically correct by saying crazy people, but like people with serious diagnosed
Right.
mental health issues.
Right.
They did a good job.
Of portraying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. Hats off to the whole cast and crew. Yeah.
And again, some of the best writing from M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. And so just here's a fun fact. According to statements made on Twitter, M. Night Shyamalan prepared 3 different cuts of the film. One that was pure comedy, one that was pure horror, and the final one that fell somewhere in between.
Oh, nice.
I'd be interested in see the other 2.
I'd
the
like
pure
to.
comedy or
Yeah,
the pure
yeah,
horror.
absolutely. I'm sure they're online somewhere. And just as like a final note to the universe, like again with this whole documentary was a great. They did a good job of adhering to the universe of the narrative of this story
Right.
because it was the documentary. And at one point in time on the train, Tyler's like, "I could wrap the end of your movie."
Right.
And then they throw up. First of all, Becca gets to give her mom the elixir of forgiveness
Right.
by
That was her
interviewing
whole
her
point.
mom.
Yeah.
And she interviews her mom, and her mom's like, this is what happened. She finally tells her daughter what happened when she ran out when she was 19.
Right, and which even boils down even to more like bullshit because we've come to find out that they had a fight when she ran off. She hit her mom, her dad hit her. Everybody was stunned. She left, and then they called her.
But yeah, shortly thereafter.
Yeah, and she was too stubborn to forgive.
Right. They reached out to her a few times. And she's like, if I wanted forgiveness, it was always there. And the big lesson of the story for Becca is
Don't hold on to anger.
don't hold on to anger. And then it goes dark, and then it's like, my little brother made me put this part in the film. Again, reinforcing the universe.
Yes.
And he raps about having shit in his face and the diapers. Like he does, like,
and like
and
for 3 weeks.
Becca's in the background looking in the mirror, like doing makeup and combing her hair, and like giving her brother some like hip hop
bops.
B girl props. It was just really well done. Just the
Yes.
whole thing was well done, well acted, well directed, great shots. Like I said before, there's like several little like cutaway artistic shots and some really scary ones. And
Yeah, it was
very authentic.
relatively low budget film. It was shot in 31 days, I believe.
In Chester County, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Film Office was all over this one. It was great. Good for Pennsylvania.
Nice. So because of the low budget, he didn't work with the usual film composer that he usually works with because it really didn't fit.
The music was
right.
also very well
done. The one
done.
thing that they did, the one piece of music, or like there were a couple pieces of music,
There was
but
about 6.
there was the one that, and I don't know if it's from a real
Because it ends with a
musical.
rap. Like after the kid does his little
Right.
like thing, it's like a legitimate solid.
But the little girl Becca, her whole thing, she wants to put the score to mom's favorite musical
Right.
over top her documentary. And I don't know if
Right.
it's from a real musical or if it's just for the film. But that same music, it sounds like some Sound of Music business.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmerman type stuff.
No.
No?
No.
Is that
not
the
even
wrong name?
close. That is definitely the wrong name.
Okay, sorry.
Sound of
Music.
Sound of Music. Yeah.
So anyway, we hear that music for a split second, and then after Tyler and Becca have defeated Grandma and Grandpa, they play this music.
Right. As Tyler's like completely lost his shit. He's
Right.
just murdered somebody,
Yes.
and sister's like trying to like calm him down, and it's like the hills are alive or something. To the kid,
Right.
right? It was great. Background music, like super happy and frilly music in the background. Yeah, it was great. I thought the music that was used there was used judiciously. There was, I think, like a total of 6 songs. Total.
Yeah, there was another like it sounded like a soul, like an old like 50s soul track playing. When Grandma and Grandpa have lost their shit completely. When Tyler's there by himself after Yahtzee.
Oh, okay.
It's like I don't know what it is, but yeah. So that was The Visit.
Yep.
On a star rating 1 to 5, what would you give it?
I would give this one a 5.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5, just because the whole rapping thing or Tyler just
That was on purpose.
I know, it just really
He was
bugged
supposed
me,
to annoy you.
bugged me.
Well, it was supposed to bug you. That's why I stick to my 5, and I understand where you're coming from.
Are you down to watch it again?
Yeah.
yeah, I would watch it again in a few more years. So yeah, so if you guys want to watch The Visit, it is now on demand for rent. It's on iTunes, just about any place where you can pay ads. I'm sure it's on Amazon and all that stuff. But yeah, on demand in iTunes. And the Bechtel test. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what the Bechtel test is, the Bechtel test, or the movie measure, the I don't know, the Bechtel test is a type of litmus test to assess the presence of women in film. It was originated from Alison Bechtel. She had a comic called Dykes to Watch Out For in 1985. And the rules go as follows. It has to have at least two named women in it.
Rule
Yes.
1.
They talk to each other.
Rule 2.
Yes. About something besides a man.
Rule 3.
Yes. I know Mom and Becca have talked about Mom's life,
Yeah.
basically. And when Becca talked to Grandma about some stuff about
Yeah.
Mom.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this passes the Bechdel test.
Yes. This is very much about the women connecting,
Mm-hmm.
or just, roots, period.
So yeah, that was The Visit. So hopefully
The kids are all right
yes.
in the end. No kids
Yes.
were harmed in the making of this film.
Yes, we did find out. I guess with Tyler's rap at the end of it. It was
Oh, yeah,
it
he
was a
talked
nice
about, he's
twist.
like, I'm not going to lie, for 3 weeks I was a complete basket case.
But he's better.
Right.
So
Tough kid.
the kids were able to come away a little bit better from this.
Like, I think that's, yeah, again, I think it was on purpose that you weren't supposed to like him, and when the grandpa's like, I didn't like you, and then he gets the
Yeah.
shit in the face, now you're starting to root for him, right? And at that point in time, when he saves his self, really, because his sister was doing all right.
Yeah. All right, so guys, if you what did you think of The Visit? You can let us know at you can send us an email down to watch podcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at DTW Podcast, or leave a message on the Facebook page, Down to Watch Podcast. And you can just contact us and just, chit chat, say hello, whatever, and any of those platforms as well. Please rate and review if you haven't done so already on iTunes and SoundCloud. We can be found in the newsfeed for Rugged Angel Productions. Rugged Angel is one word. And until next week, I'm Kahmeela.
Dan.
And we will talk to you.
Sorry, I cursed.